Okay, a new parak, a new parak with big yisaidis. You know, one thing about Sanhedrin, it builds one on top of the other. So a lot of this Mishnah that we're about to see is something we've seen before. Similar to the first parak, we're getting the whole Mishnayos of the parak in one Amud. So it's one very long Mishnah. In the Mishnayos, it's broken up. But over here, it's one long Mishnah, and it discusses the Drishos v'chakiros. It says in the Torah, "V'darasha v'chach dehetiv." Three places it says the lashon drisha. It says it by Ir Nidachas. It says it by Eidim Zoymimim, and it says it by the parsha of Avodah Zarah of an individual. And we're going to darshan yet. You need seven. The main thing is the chakiros, because that's where what it's shayach hazama. We've spoken out very often, and I think it bears repetition. Eidim are given crazy, crazy, crazy power in the Torah. Al pishnayim eidim yakum davar. If two people tell you something, as they say in the vernacular, azayidas. If they tell you it's daytime now and it's nighttime, it's daytime. If they tell you it's nighttime and it's daytime, it's nighttime. Whatever they say goes. They can kill people. They can take a person's life, which is a huge thing. What keeps them in their place? What gives them the power? The knowledge that they're not invincible. The knowledge that whatever they're doing can go ahead and get back to them. Whatever they're trying to accomplish could go ahead and revert to them. The way this is accomplished is by the chakiros, getting the time, the place, and exactly what transpired, where it's possible for someone to say to you, how could you have said that? You were with us, Imanu Yisem, which is called Eidim Zoymimim. And the main Masechta that deals with that is Masechta Makis. But it comes through, it's throughout Shas mentioned. And the purpose of Chakiros is to assure that I can go ahead and be Mezim you. If it's Eidis Shi'ata Yochel Azima, that you cannot be Chaim Azama, we will not accept that Eidis. Again, it's kind of a how should I say? Not a buffer, but kind of, if you got to, in order to play the game, you got to be in it. And to be in it means you got to lose. You have the chance of losing. If you can't lose, because it's not possible to Mekayim Azama, then we don't give you that power. Then we don't give you the power. And that's basically very much what the Mishnah is describing. So let's see what we got. They would check the Eidim. They would check the Eidim out with 7 chakiros. Be'ez shvua, which Shemitah cycle are we in? In Yovel, there are 7 Shemitah cycles. Which one are we in? Be'ez shana, which year of Shemitah are we in? Be'ez chodesh, which month of Shemitah are we in? Bekama b'chodesh, what day of the month? Be'ez yom, what date of the month? What day of the month? Be'ez shah, what hour are we in? Be'ez makom, what place are we in? These are all the 7 chakiros. And with these 7 chakiros, again, you're setting yourself up for a person saying, 1 second, how could you have testified during that time and that place? Right? You were with us. Rabbi Yossi Omer, you only need 3. Be'ez yom, what day? Be'ez shah, what time? Be'ez makom, what place? Makirim atem oisai, they ask him, do you recognize him? It's machloikes b'shainim. Is it going on the Nirtzach, the one that was killed, or the Reitzeach? His Ratemboy, did you give them Hasra? Avodah Zarah, Esmi Oived. If Avodah Zarah, who did he serve? Ubema Ovad, and how did he serve? Kolamar b'bedikois harizem meshubach. Anyone who's marbe b'bedikois harizem meshubach. So we just said the 7 chakiros, and now we have bedikois. Makir in my side, do you recognize him? He tartem boy, did you give Asra? These seem to be the bedikos. According to Machloikis, Ramban and Rashi, but this way Rashi learns that this is going on the bedikos. This is not part of the chakiros. This is what the bedikos. So if you look at Rashi, Makir matem oisai, go down about a little past where we are holding in the Gemara. Makir matam oisai es hahorug. Do you know the person that was killed? Shem Nachrihu, maybe it was an Nachri, and therefore you kill a Nachri, you're not chayiv misa. V'zu edim in hachakiros shel hazama, and these are not the chakiros that could lead to hazama. El kol, this is what is el kechol shar bedikos she'ena elo lahachish. These are all bedikas that what maybe one aid will say opposite the other aid, and they'll be makish the aidus, and we'll remove it that way. Perhaps he won't say like his friend. Utibatal eidusan, and the aidus will be batal. Who behem peturin, and they will be potter. No, it's not aidus hazama. It's not chas hazama. Aval min hachakira shel hazama yatamoitzi yoitzi mishiva kidamina gemara. But when it comes to the hazama, you won't have more than 7. So Rashi Geshmakli tells us what's the difference between drisas and chakiros. Chakiros could lead to hazama. Hazama could lead to you oichen veibi of kahaktet tzaris. On the other hand, bedikos, what's the purpose of bedikos? Not to go ahead and lend you to be punished, but to go ahead and be mevatel the edis if both edis do not say the same thing. If both edis do not say the same thing, then to be mevatel that. Maisa ubodik ben zakai ba'oitzei teine. There was a Maisa and Ben Zakai. He went ahead and checked out the edim. What happened with the Maisa happened underneath a teina tree, a fig tree, and in the bedikos he asked him about the oitzei. How were they thick? Were they long? He was checking the stems of the figs. Okay, now, that's an example of what of bedikos. That's an example of bedikos. Ma ben chakiros lebedikos. You know the difference now. Chakiros eina echad omer eini yadeya edusam betela. As soon as the guy says in the chakiros, the 7 chakiros, I don't know, the edus is batal. Why? Because you can't be mekayim azama. Because you can't be mekayim azama. Once he says I don't know, so once you can't be mekayim azama, no longer is the aid invested with that power. No longer is that aid invested with that power if he can't go ahead and answer your question. B'dikos, however, with b'dikos, echad amen eni yadeya, v'afilu shtayim omer mein onu yoidim, edus and kayemes. What color was his shirt? I don't know. Okay, so you don't know what color shirt it was, but the guy was a Reitzach, right? You don't know what color was his belt, what color was his shoes, what color was his pants. The edus is l'makayim. What time was it? Edus batal. What day of the month was it? Edus batal. Because in these cases, what? You won't be able to come as summer. What clothing he was wearing, what color clothing he was wearing, not. Echad chakiros v'echad b'dikos, bizman shemachishim zeh edusim b'tela. When they makish each other, when they go ahead and they weaken each other, in that case, what? The edus will be batal. In that case, the edus what? Would be batal if what? If they makish each other. One says on day 2 of the month, and one says day 3 of the month. Edus and kayemes. One knows that what? That one thinks that the last month was what? Was a chaser. So if it was chaser, Rosh Chodesh was on day 30. The other one knows it's a malay. Rosh Chodesh was on day 31. So you could be off by a day. However, if one says what? Day 3, and the other one says day 5, Edus and Betela. Then what? Then the Edus will be batal, off by 2 hours. 2 hours or what? No, means 3 days. One says on day 3, one says day 5, Edus and Betela, because you can't make that mistake. You can't blame it on the past month. You would know. One says 2, one says 3, Edus and Kayemes. Then the Edus and will be Mekayim. A person can make a mistake of up to an hour. One says the 3rd hour of the day, one says the 5th hour of the day, Edus and Betela. A person can make a mistake in 2 hours. However, if one says the 5th hour, one says the 7th hour, Edus and Betela, and even Rabbi Yehuda would be Maida. From 3 to 5, it's good. From 5 to 7, it's not. You know why? Because 5 is 11 o'clock, 7 is 1 o'clock. People know the difference when the sun's in the east and when the sun's in the west. Okay. The achkach machnisim es hasheni. So this is what they interrogated the first aid. Now they're bringing in the second aid. The achkach machnisim es hasheni uboit can I say, and you check them out. Im nimsu devrayem mechuvanim. If you find that they're both mechuvin, they're both direct, saying the same thing, then poischim b'schus. You'll go ahead and me poiseach b'schus. Right? Then Bezin will be poiseach b'schus. As always, they always poiseach b'chutz. Let's say the aid himself said you can be malamed schutz, and culture came out that if he says l'chayva, we say be quiet. So that if an aid says he can be malamed schutz, or the aid says what chayva, where he's nagei be'edis, then we'll go ahead and be mishaskim him. And even when a talmidim says l'chayva, then we'll be making quiet. Again, when we speak about Talmidim, fellas, we're speaking about those 3 rows that were in front, right? Again, a lot of this mission we did. You have 3 rows of 8 that are in front. Yeshli lamed of schus, I can be lamed of schus. Mile I say. Then we'll go ahead and we'll bring them up there. Mile I say, and we'll put them up by the Bezdin. And we'll shiv I say by Nehem. Misham kalayam kula. They stayed up there the whole day. Im yesh mamish b'dvarav shaymim loy. Va'afilu hu oime yeshli lamed al atzmi schus. Even if the Baldin says I can be malamed schus on himself, provided this mamashas to his words. Provided there's mamashas to his words. If they find during the day, they find the schus, they let him off. Lav, and if they can't find the schus, then they wait till the next day. Alana Sadin to deliberate. Now, deliberation we mentioned, but we never mentioned how exactly deliberation works, right? Mizdavgen zugais, they make a chavusa shaft. They didn't eat a lot. They didn't drink at all. In other words, they spent the whole night. This guy's life is on the line. This is heavy stuff. His life is on the line. They wouldn't eat. This is not every little, but they wouldn't drink. They'd stay up the whole night. Someone who was mizaka the day before says, "Ani mizaka umizaka nivim koime." I was mizaka yesterday, and I'm staying true to form. V'mechayiv oimer, ani mechayiv v'mechayiv anivim koime. Hamalamed chayva, malamed schus. One who the previous day had been malamed chayva can change and be malamed schus. Av hamalamed schus eni yachal lachsav malamed chayva. Someone who was malamed schus cannot be malamed chayva. We saw it previously, according to Rav, that's dafka during the period of masav umata. When it comes to the Gamar Din, if he feels that the guy's chayiv, he votes chayiv. Guys, remember that. That he says that malamed schus can't change to chayva is only during the masav umata, the deliberation process. But once in fact, it's the Gamar Din, then he could change his mind. That was Rav's Kiddush. Okay. Toya Bedava, let's say they made a mistake and they don't know which dayan was Mechayev and which dayan was Mezakeh. Shnei Sefer Dayanim who were writing before would remind them. In other words, they forgot the day before exactly who said what, they would remind them. In Matzaloi, Schus, Patrua. Again, this is the next day, and now they find that I guess the majority has gone ahead by 2 has voted schus. Patrua will let the guy off the hook. Vim lav, and if not, oimdim leminion. They'll have what? They'll go to count. In other words, they found umatzla b'yom zez schus. In other words, if they're masking that the guy's off the hook, he's off the hook. However, if not, then they stand for the count. Shneim esrei mizakin. If you have 12, again, the bezdin is of 23. If you have 12 that are mizaka, and 11 mechayev, 23. So you have a vote of 1, a majority to let him off the hook. Zakai, he's off the hook. However, Shnayim Asam Mechayavim, if 12 are Mechayiv him, the Achad Asam Mizakim, and 12 are Mizakeh, so you have a majority of 1 to be Mechayiv him, we said it doesn't work. You need a majority of 2. Vafilu Echad Esrei Mizakim, Echad Esrei Mechayavim, 11 and 11, the Echad Eni Yadeya, Vafilu Esrei Mushnayim Mizakim, you have 22 Mizakeh, Oy Mechayavim, or 22 Mechayavim, the Echad Eni Yadeya, Yesifu Adayonim. So you hear this, 22 say he's Zakeh. One person says, I don't know. If that one person would have said Chayiv, he would win like anything. But again, why do we say the Chiddush is, if you say Eni Yodeya, you don't have a Bezdin. You never had a Bezdin. Again, it's a Jewish lumdis. You speak to a guy, they wouldn't understand this bichlal. In other words, you're telling me 22 versus 1, you win by a landslide. The guy goes home, he's throwing a party. 22 versus 0, because the guy doesn't know, you got to add dayanim. Why? Because you didn't have a bezdin. At the Pascha capital punishment, you need a bezdin of 23. Anyway, the Kama, how many Meisifin, how many dayanim do you add? Shnayim. You add 2 at a time. So if, let's say you add 2, one would say Chayev, one would say Zakai, you win. Let's say they both say Zakai, you win. Let's say they both say Chayev, I don't know. And so in situations, I guess, where they would say Eni Yodeya, the second pair, the situation where you have to add, you keep on adding 2 at a time, Ad l'shiv mecha, till you get to what? 71. Now, we get to 71, Shleisha v'shisha mizakin, you got 36 saying mizakin, u'shleisha v'chamisha mechayavim, and 35, so it's 36 and 35 is 71, but you zoicha by 1, zakai, that's great. All I need is majority 1. 36 yes, 35 nay, we're good. However, what conversely is the problem. Shloishim v'shishim mechayavim, if you have 36 that are mechayev, u'shloishim v'chamishim mizakin, and 35 that are say that he's mizakeh, you can't go ahead and paskin what through a majority of 1 lechayev, but you can't add on anymore. So what do? This is you're kind of in a hard place. 36 say he's chayev, 35 said he's not. You need a majority of 2 to mechayev the guy. You don't have the ability to be Maisif because you hit 71. What do? Says the Gemara, I'll tell you what you do. Donin Elu, Kineged Elu, the Dayanim that are Mizaka, they're Donin Kineged the Mechayavim, at Shir Echim in Mechayavim, Divrei HaMizakim, until one of the 36 should see the what of the 35, and he'll leave the 36 and make the Mizakim, make them chayiv. Make them plata. Make them plata. So that's the point. The point is to try, again, Vitzilu as Eda, you see that everything is stacked to go ahead and let this guy live. Now, guys, if you think about it, the Drishis v'chakiris are tremendous leniencies. They're tremendous leniencies. Again, we give the Eidim a really tough time. They got to be mechavin time, place, date, yovel, shmita year, and if they blow it in one of them, the Eidos are saved. It's a tremendous, when we view the Drishis Chakiris vis-a-vis the Eidim, it seems like we're really being tough. But view it globally in the picture. What's the purpose? The purpose is to silu as a Eda to save a guy. Again, if the guy is Chayiv Misa, God can take care of him. There's Bezdin Shel Mata and Bezdin Shel Naila. If a guy can be a mass murderer, beat this system in the court, trust me, he's not going to live a happy life. Hashem is going to take care of him. The famous case, a guy kills B'shoigeg, and there's no Eidim, right? And a guy kills B'mezid, and there's no Eidim. So the guy who killed B'shoigeg, no Eidim, he should go to Gullus. The guy who killed B'mezid should be killed. But the technicality, It doesn't work. So what happens? The guy who killed B'mezid is walking one day, gets to under a tree. A guy who killed B'shogeg is working in the tree. He slips, falls down, kills the guy who killed B'mezid underneath the tree. People are watching this now, and he's going to gullus. So don't think that Hashem is taking care of things, right? Even though we saw in last parak, guys, even though Bezdin is bottled, the Arba Misas Bezdin is not bottled. A guy who's Mechuyev Misa, Skila, right? He'll fall off a building. He'll get thrown down by an animal. Guy who's Mechuyev Sreifa will get bit by a snake or get burnt. You know, Hashem has ways taking care of it. We're just dealing with Bezdin Shel Mata. In the protocol of Bezdin, these Drishas of Kiris Awad are tremendous kulas. Where's the source for this kula? Where's the source for this kula? We have three sources. One, Erni Dachas. Two, Eidim Zoimim Avodah Zarah. And three, Eidim Zoimim. Minoni Mili. How do we know? Gemara wants to know, how do you know that there's 7 chakiras? How do you know that you have to do these 7 chakiras? And there's 3 psukim. Amr Yehuda Damakra, the pasuk says, V'darashta, v'chakarta, v'sha'alta hetiv. And you'll delve into v'chakarta, v'sha'alta hetiv. V'hine emes nachan adavar, nasa ha'eva hazais b'kirbecha. So this is speaking about Irnei Dachas. Let's focus on 3 words. V'darashta, v'chakarta, and hetiv. Sha'alta means nothing until it says the word hetiv. Hetiv makes the sha'alta something. These are 3 chakiras, guys. The rashta, v'chakarta, v'sha'alta hetiv. Again, the hetiv makes the sha'alta. Okay, that's 3. Now the next pasuk is speaking by the next pasuk. Next pasuk speaking about avodah zarah by the yachid. V'hinei lecha v'shamata v'darashta hetiv v'hinei emes nachayin adavar nesa hatayev azois b'Yisrael v'shamata v'darashta hetiv v'darashta hetiv is 2 more. So you have 3 from Irnei Dachas, 2 from what? From avodah zarah v'yachid, and now we'll give you 2 more. V'darshu ha'shayftim hetiv is by Eidim Zaymimim. V'darshu ha'shayftim hetiv. So it says v'darshu ha'shayftim v'darshu hetiv. Yeah, v'darshu v'hetiv is another 2. So guys, 3, 2, 2. A total of what? Of 7. 7. Total of 7. Why I didn't do this? Because I didn't. Okay, it's 7. 7. Total of 7. Amid base. Fred the Gemara Kasha. Fred the Gemara. The Ema, why don't we say Chada Chada Kita Kesiva? By Erni Dachas, I need 3 chakiros. By Avodah Zarah v'Yachid, 2 chakiros. By Eidim Zaymim, 2 chakiros. Why do we go ahead and lump them together? The Imkain, because if you don't say that, if you don't say that, Lichtavu Rachmanim Chada. Let the Torah write them all in one spot. In other words, it makes sense to say that 3, 2, 2. Because you're making them all what? 7 altogether. Why would you do that? If the Torah wanted 7 altogether, they'd write it in one spot, and you learn it out from that spot. Why are you going ahead and breaking it up 3, 2, 2? It must be telling me by Irnei Dachas you need 3, by Eidim Zaymim you need 2, and by Avodah Zarah Yachid you need 2. That's the Gemara's kasha. And for the Gemara, Kivin the Kula Bahadi Adadi Ksiva, since they're all written together, since the Torah equates the 3 of them, Le'inyan, that they need Drishas Eidim, Mahadei Yalfin, they learn from each other. In other words, we don't find this need of Drishas Eidim by any other things. We only find it by these 3 things. If we find it by these 3 things, it makes sense to say that they're all together. They're lumped as one. They're lumped as one because these are the 3 places that we find we need Trisha v'Chakira. Since you find these 3 places, we're going to put them together. Kivin the Kula Bahadi Adadi Ksiva, since they're written together, the fact that they need this, Me'adadi Yalfi, they'll learn one from the other. The Kivin the Yalfi Me'adadi Kimandi Yasi B'Chadadami. Since we learn one from the other, we'll view it all as one. So that's again. So 7 chakiros, 3 by Erni Dachas, 2 by Avodah Zarah, 2 by Ibn Sulaim, and the Gemara. Let's uniquely keep 3, 2, 2, because if they wanted it to be 7, write it by 1. Says the Gemara, no. Since they only wrote Drisha v'Chakir by these 3 places, it's Keilu Taka did write it by 1. It's Keilu they did write it by 1. Now, if you're going to learn out one from the other, it's shverlich. There's always a kasha. When you learn one from the other, it has to be that this one doesn't have a chumrah over this one, because this one does have a chumrah. Maybe there we won't be so lenient with them. Again, remember, Trisha v'Chakira are leniencies. So maybe we're lenient by this. Why would we be lenient by that? And the Gemara is going to go ahead and ask. So again, just to reiterate, what are the three places? Erni Dachas, Avodah Zarah V'Yachid, and Eidim Zoymim. Now let's go through. What is Erni Dachas Chayef, fellas? What's the oynish they get? They get Sayef. They get the. What does Avodah Zarah get? Skila. Avodah Zarah gets stoned. Gets skila. What does Eidim Zoymim get? It depends. It depends. But the least they get is Sayef, guys. In other words, it's not worse than Sayef because you could get Sayef, right? You could get it. Okay? So with that in mind, Simin Polta Sayef Hasra. We're showing why they're not similar to each other. Erani Dachas Lahanach Tarti Loidamya. Erani Dachas is not similar to these two, to Eidim Zoymim and Avodah Zarah. She came in Moinam Palat. By Erni Dachas, guys, you're going to burn all the money. Everything's going to be gone. Their money is intact. So therefore, maybe where the money is intact, they will have the maybe where the money is intact, we won't have that leniency. But by Erni Dachas, where the money is gone, we'll have the leniency of Jishu Chakira. Avodah Zarah Lahanach Tarti. Avodah Zarah is not comparable to Erni Dachas and Eidim Zoymim. Leidamya Shekem B'Sayef. They're B'Sayef, meaning Erni Dachas is B'Sayef, and Eidim Zoymim could be B'Sayef. Now Rashi deals with this, guys. Look at Rashi. Erni Dachas B'Sayef, Eidim Zoymim de Pashasa Mashma Shemeidim al Retzeach. In the Parsh, it's Mashma, they're testifying against Retzeach. So if Asisim Kasha Zamam, what did they want to do? They wanted to kill a person. Killing is what? Through Sayef. So Memela, that's Rashi's first pshat. Midchsiv nefesh b'nefesh ayin b'ayin. V'inami, this is Rashi's second pshat. V'inami mishtoi b'chol Eidim Zoymim. We're speaking about every parsha of Eidim Zoymim. The yesh mehem b'skila. Some have skila. Miu hoyel v'yesh mehem b'sayef. Since some have sayef, le'achmir kra alayu lahamisan achi yechru as hamazim, my son. The Torah is not machmir on them to kill them until you do chakira. We'll have the leniency of chakira. Good. They could be skila. But enochinami what? They could be sayif too. Once it's shayach sayif, so memela is shayach the leniency what of drisha v'chakira. So Fed Gemara, I can't learn out Eidim Zoymim and Avodah Zarah from Erni Dachas because of money, and I can't learn out Avodah Zarah from Avodah Zarah from Eidim Zoymim and Erni Dachas because it's sayif. Says the Gemara, Lahanach Tarti Loidamya, Eidim Zoymim Lahanach Tami Loidart. Eidim Zoymim is not comparable to Erni Dachas and Avodah Zarah. Shekain Tzrichim Asra. They need Asra, but Eidim Zoymim doesn't need Asra. So Fred the Gemara Kasha, you're telling me that since Drisha v'Chakira is mentioned by all of them, and therefore we're going to learn out all three from each other, how is it possible? Each one has a chumrah, the other one doesn't have. Erni Dachas is a chumrah that the money is shot. Eidim Zoymim and Avodah Zarah have a chumrah that it can't learn out because the money is intact. Eidim Zoymim has a chumrah that doesn't need asra. Mashiach the other two, and Erni Dachas has a chumrah that it's what. Excuse me, Avodah Zarah is a chumrah that's skila versus the other two is sayif. So how can I learn from each other? And for the Gemara, beheitiv yalfina me'adadi. It says beheitiv, and we'll learn out of Gezeirah Shava, heitiv. Now, guys, the Gezeirah Shava is what? You had an extra word, and you had a Messiah from that extra word that it's used to compare. The halacha that's over here applies over here as well. There's two types of Gezeirah Shava. There's Gezeirah Shava that's mufna, where the word is totally extra, and Gezeirah Shava that's not mufna. The Gezeirah Shava that's mufna is much better, because then there's no question. Since it's mufna, the word is extra totally, the whole purpose of its existence is to teach me that limud. So even though you'll have a kasha, mefregnish kan kashas, because of the fact that it's extra. This Gezeirah Shava of heitiv must be mufna. You know why? Because you have a kasha. You have the kasha of Erni Dachas, the money is destroyed. You have the kasha of Eidim Zoymim, you don't need asra. You have the kasha of Erni Dachas that Avodah Zarah is skila. So again, you have pirchis. So it must be that this gezeira shava hativ must be mufna, as the Gemara says. The Eloi mufna, if it's not extra, the words hativ ikal mifrich, we have kashis, and the kashis we just mentioned. Says Malai, correct. You are correct. It's emes. It's extra. Apnuye mufna. It's extra. Midahavile lemichtav by Edim Zoimimim. It should have written v'darshu v'chakru. V'shani kra b'dibura b'hetiv. The word hetiv is a difference. You should have written v'darshu v'chakru. You shouldn't write hetiv. Shmamina lapnuye. When it writes hetiv, it's extra. V'ikam mufna mitzad echad hu. Now, so very good. Akati mufna mitzad echad. It's only one extra on one side. We want extra on both sides. The one that you're learning from and the one that you're learning to. Bishlei mahanach tarti avodah zara and edim zaymimim mufnahu mishum dahavilei lemichtav. You could have written chakira. El erni dachas my havilei lemichtav. By erni dachas, where you wrote the karta v'darashta v'charata v'shalta hetiv, what else could you have written? What else could you have written? Haksiva kula. You wrote everything. Hasanami apnuye mufna midahavilei lemichtav dorish tidrosh. You could have doubled down. The darashta, you could have wrote a double lashon darashta, a chaka tachker, a double lashon chakarta, the shani krobe dibura by saying the darashta, the chakarta, the sha'alta hetiv, right? Shmamina that dibura is shmamina lepnuye asa, right? Shmamina lepnuye. Good. So guys, so very good. So now I've been successful. It says hetiv vat by 3 places. Nidachas avodah zara v'yachid and edim zaymimim. It's a gezeira shava that's mufna, and memela, since it says by each one, we'll combine the 3 by nidachas to the 2 of edim zaymimim to the 2 of avodah zara, a total of 7. And right now we're holding good. Do we have kashas? Yes, we have kashas on each one, but we don't ask them. Why? Of course, it's a gezeira shava mufna, and there's no questions. Okay, now let's see what of the Abba Mises Bezdin have we learned out, guys? Skila, yeah. We learned the Skila because of Avodah Zara. And we learned Sayef, yeah. We learned Sayef. Says the Gemara, V'yasu nechnachim b'kavachayma min eskalin umin heragim. I'll learn out nechnachim, chenek, from Skila of Avodah Zara and neragim of Avodah Zara, of Yernidachas and Edim Zaymimim. That if those cases which are more severe will apply the leniency of Drisha v'Chakira, certainly will apply it by Chenek, which is what? The least severe. That makes sense, right? If by the more severe Bisa will apply the Kula of Drisha v'Chakira, the Mela by the easier death, Nechnakim, will apply that as well. By the easier death, Nechnakim, will apply that as well. That makes a lot of sense. Good? Now, the asul nisrafim, the kalvachoyim miniskalim. If skila, which is the most chomer of the misais, requires drisha v'chakira, then certainly what? Certainly sreifa, which is less chomer, according to most opinions, sreifa, which is less chomer, I'll apply the kula of sreifa. Now, there's a machloikus later on in the Masechta, fellas, whether what's the most severe of the Arba Mises Bezdin? So Bishleim, if you hold Skila is the most severe, you can learn that Sreifa from Skila. What happens if you hold Sreifa is more severe? Then you will not have a source for what? For Trish v'Chakira by Sreifa. Says the Gemara. Hanicha, this is very good. L'Rabbanon, the Ami Skila Chamura, who holds Skila is more Chamur, that you can learn that Sreifa from Skila for requiring Trisha. El Rabbi Shimon Dama Sreifa Chamura Mayik Lemeimar. Like Reb Shimon who says Sreifa is Muhammad, what are you going to say? You don't have a source. El Amar Rav Yehuda, V'hine Emes Nachain. It says by Avodah Zara, Emes Nachain. V'hine Emes Nachain. It says by Inidachas, V'hine Emes Nachain. Good. So now we're darshaning not only the lashon of the Rashta v'Chakarta, we're darshaning Emes Nachain. So let's count, guys. We have 7, yes. We have 2 more. We have 4 more. Emes Nachain 2. Emes Nachain is 2. That's a total of 11. 7 and 4 is 11. Hachad Sari, we have 11. Sheva lechakiros, 7 for the 7 chakiros, which leaves me left over 4. Dal tlas legzeir shava, take out the 3 for gezeir shava. Pashu lechada, I'm left with 1. The Reb Shimon lasui nisrafim, that 1 comes to go ahead want and include nisrafim. So we just expanded the limud. We went from the 7 listed, we got 4 more. How? Emes nachan adavar. We used 7 for the chakiros. We used 3 for the gezeir shava, right? And we left over extra 1. And that extra 1 we used for Reb Shimon, who holds Sreif is more chamar, that even Sreifa would require Drisha v'chakira. That even Sreifa would require Drisha v'chakira. Now, loy techachamim that skill is more chamar, and you learned it out, and Sreif is learned out. Why'd you write that extra 1? Ul-Rabbanon, milsadas b'kal v'chaymer, something that you learn out of a kal v'chaymer. Sreif from skila, if skila requires Drisha v'chakira, so does Sreifa. Tarach v'kasel l'kra, the Torah went ahead, it was Tareach, and wrote a pasuk. Now this was the pshat that was stated. This is the pshat was stated. Now we had this lashon before. Megadef bo Ravo. Ravo was all agitated. He was mekalel this teretz. They say he didn't. Says the Gemara, Ema lasuye shmoina chakiros. Why do you opt to say that this extra 1 is to go ahead and teach Sreifa by Rav Shimon? Maybe it's to tell me you need 8 chakiros. In other words, once you have 1 extra, why go ahead and throw it on Rav Shimon? I could say you need 8 chakiros instead of 7 chakiros. I could say you need 8 chakiros instead of 7 chakiros. Says the Gemara, shmoina chakiros miyaka. What do you mean? I don't have shmoina. I only have 7 questions. Fred, what are you talking about? Alam aloi. What you said? What time? What hour of the day? In other words, what hour of the day? What time? How many minutes in the hour? The Tanya Nami Hachi. They would go ahead and check Shmeina Chakiris like Rabbi Vo, so you wouldn't know Sreifa. Like Reb Shimon. This is very good of Abaya according to Reb Meir. The Omar Ein Adam Toya V'Lei Klum. Right, a person doesn't go ahead and make a mistake in times. A quarter of a shah, this shah, that shah. Very good. In those, we're going to meet this later on. In other words, Bishleim, a person doesn't make a mistake in time, there's no reason to ask it. But according to that, people make mistakes in time. You should go ahead and ask this question. What do you have to say? In other words, you're going to go ahead, and it comes to include Kama V'Yavel. So 1 second. So you want to say the following. According to Reb Meir, who says, Ein Odom Toya, when it comes to taking this man, it's possible to go ahead and be Chaker the Eidim. Since they don't make a mistake, it's possible to be Chaker. But Loi Abaya, according to Reb Yehuda, that it's not possible, how could you ask the question? In other words, what time it was. Don't ask me exactly what time it was. People make mistakes when it comes to time. Exactly hours, not hours, minutes, and exactly 3 minutes. People make mistakes. So therefore, what's your kasher bavo? If that's your shmona chakira, like that opinion, there is no shmona chakira. Because you can only ask something that people are supposed to know. If I'm not supposed to know it, you can't ask it to me. So, and you're telling me that the out of the 11, the 8th one should be used for what? For Shmoina Chakira. Which one would that be? So in this he says, Ella, what are you going to tell me? Lasuye Bekama B'Yovel. Right. Says the Gemara, Kama B'Yovel, you already said Kama B'Yovel. That's the Shemitah year. Hainu Be'ezah Shvua, which year of the Shemitah year? Ella, what do you mean? Lasuye Be'ezah Yovel. When was the Maisa? Was in this Yovel? Or in a different Yovel? Was in this Yovel a different Yovel? Which is really, really, really hard to understand. The Idach, Rabbi Yehuda, who says that what Aiden and Mechaim Sreifa, they need Chakira. Why don't they darshan? Why does he darshan it for the Shemaina for the 8? It says Kivin the Amar Be'ezah Shvua. Once you said which one of the Shemitah cycle is, like boy Be'ezah Yovel, you don't have to ask him what. Be'ezel Yovel. You don't have to ask him what Be'ezel Yovel. It doesn't make any sense. Now, this whole thing about Yovel, these chakiras, guys, you're an aide. You mama see a guy killed. You're standing with your friend, you see a guy killed. It's Tuesday, you're in Belgium, you're in, which city are you in Belgium? I have no idea. But give me a city in Belgium. Okay, let's go with Sayreville. You're in New Jersey.
Brussels.
Okay, Brussels. Okay, good, thanks. Okay, in Brussels, what yovel was it in? What yovel was it in? Which year of the Shemitah cycle are you in? I mean, so here's a very, very nice marmokim, guys. It's a Minchas Chinuch, Tuf Samech Gimel. Minchas Chinuch, Tuf Samech Gimel. And the Minchas Chinuch is, he asked the Kasha, like, how could you expect a person to know that? Bisman Hazeh. Fellas, we haven't kept Yovel since Avodim, since the Shvatim in the time of Sanhedrin, they went into Galus. When the only time Yovel is naig when all the Shvatim are sitting on their respective nachlos. So in other words, we haven't been naig Yovel since the Bayis Rishon, and there were murderers in Bayis Sheni up until a certain point. So he embellishes the kasha that he goes, how are you supposed to know that? So he gives it a very, very important teretz. I think it's an important yesod and makes a lot of sense. Binarily, the be'emes emavur b'toira mahena chakiros. It doesn't say what the chakiros are. Rak da Torah kosva that tzarich edus sh'ata yachal azima. The Torah tells us you need edus that you possibly could be mekayim kashazamam. The al yedei zeh misyarim edim l'shaker. Through this, the edim, as I've said over ad nauseum, that what until that the edim that you'll know they'll sin. That in other words that to scare them, shemisyarim edim l'shaker, because why? Because they can get caught. V'amru Chazal, the tzarich sheva chakiros. So you need 7. Shekulon hazama tuluyim behen. That all hazam is totally in them. The Avsha Amar, even if he says emesh hargu, he killed yesterday. The shayach din hazama beloya chakiros. It's shayach the din of hazama without chakiros, right? Where were you yesterday? You were with us yesterday. Even without the 7, I can become hazama. The kama b'yovel you don't need for hazama. Become makim avdina krib shum ben Elazar. We'll see like Reb Shimon Elazar, as we're going to see, lahatrichai ulasiyai, to go ahead and make the guy, trouble him, to mix him up as much as possible. Where it's shaykh, those 7 lashonis, where they're shaykh to be asked, then we can ask them. In a place where you can't go ahead and be chayker with these chakiros, it's enough then to be chayker in things that could bring him to azama. The only thing is, can you or cannot be lachkar? Right? If you can't be machkar with this, then you don't need it. That you need 8 chakiros. Umaskinon dein tzarich. You don't need 8. The kim the amar be'ezah shvua. Hachanami the chakiros alalu kibla biyadenu the tzarich. V'hainu the kulam evin le'azama. Avol makam the yefsha eina ma'akiv. In a place where it's not possible, they're not ma'akiv. V'idna im oime b'shana zu liyitzira. It was the year 2025. Himoshanu moinim ha'idna like we count now. Ube'ezah chaydish. Which month it is? Dai yedezeh yechel lav le'azama. Dai bekach. It will be enough. So again, it's not says the Minchas Chinuch beautifully. The whole purpose of chakiros is what? What's the whole purpose of chakiros? The whole purpose of chakiros is to give to azama. At that time, there was 7 chakiros, and those are the number. And based upon that time, these were things that could lead to azama. But it doesn't preclude that if you can't answer those questions in your day and age, that no, as long as you can ascertain that upon this edus, the person has the fear that he can end up he can end up the same way, then you're worried. Then you're worried. Okay, that's okay. I guess we'll stop over here. Stop over here.